What do you do when the person you love the most becomes a stranger in your own home? The question echoed in Sofia Matsuoka's mind as she stood in the narrow kitchen, the soft click of the kettle the only sound filling the early morning hush. A pale shaft of light crept past the paper shoji window divider, painting geometric patterns across the compact dining table, her favorite spot in their small apartment. She arranged two ceramic mugs, one with a crack she secretly cherished, and placed a plate of toasted pão de queijo beside a bowl of sliced papaya. The kitchen smelled of warm bread and fresh coffee, but the air itself felt tense, heavy, as if waiting for something to break the silence. Renato Matsuoka sat at the end of the table, his posture neat, eyes fixed on the blue glow of his phone screen. His work laptop was already open, a spreadsheet half filled with arcane code and numbers. He wore the same navy t-shirt and gray sweatpants he always did on weekdays before changing for the office, his dark hair slightly tousled from sleep. Sofia, in her soft cotton robe, tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear, searching for a way to pierce the invisible wall between them. "Did you sleep well?" she asked, her voice gentle, almost tentative. Renato's eyes flicked up for a moment. He nodded, the barest hint of a smile on his lips. Sofia poured coffee into his favorite mug, the one with the faded cherry blossom print. She waited, hoping for more, craving even a small opening for conversation. But Renato's attention slid back to his phone, thumb scrolling steadily. The city beyond their window was already alive. The distant drone of traffic, the trill of bicycle bells, the muffled calls of street vendors selling pastel on the avenue below. In here, though, the silence pressed in. She looked at him, searching for traces of the man she'd fallen in love with. His quick laugh, the warm squeeze of his hand, the way his eyes once lingered on her. Now, all she saw was a distant figure, shoulders hunched, lips pressed in a thin line. She tried again, lighter this time. "I thought we could walk together to the metro today. The weather's nice. Look." She gestured toward the window, where the sky showed a rare patch of blue between São Paulo's ever-present clouds. Renato shook his head, barely glancing up. "Got to check in early. There's a deployment." A sliver of disappointment caught in Sofia's chest. "Maybe tomorrow, then?" He nodded absently, already typing a reply to some message. Sofia let the silence settle, swallowing the questions that crowded her mind. She sat across from him, stirring her coffee, watching the steam rise and dissipate. They ate in near silence. The occasional clink of cutlery, the beep of a notification, the city's heartbeat outside, a stark contrast to the stillness inside their home. When Renato stood, slinging his backpack over his shoulder, Sofia mustered a hopeful smile. "Have a good day at work." He paused in the doorway, offering a quick, "You too," before disappearing down the hall. Sofia remained at the table, hands wrapped around her mug for warmth she couldn't quite find. She stared at the empty chair across from her, her reflection warped in the glass of the window. The city was waking up, but inside their apartment, everything felt suspended. Waiting. Uncertain. By late morning, the streets of Liberdade pulsed with energy. Neon kanji signage blinked above grocery stores and bakeries, the air fragrant with steam from street food stalls. Sofia stepped out, her canvas tote slung over one shoulder, and let the city's bustle wash over her. She passed young couples laughing over bubble tea, elderly men playing shogi outside the corner cafe, children darting between market stalls. The chatter and chaos of the neighborhood made her feel both alive and, oddly, even more alone. She stopped at Sakura Cafe, the tiny shop where her friend Lucia worked. The place was always busy, aromatic with coffee and mochi, packed with students and locals. Sofia pushed past the beaded curtain, greeted by a burst of chatter and the hiss of milk frothing. Lucia was behind the counter, her hair piled in a cheerful bun, calling out, "Bom dia, Sofia." She slid a matcha latte across the bar with a wink. "You look like you need this." Sofia smiled, grateful for the warmth in her friend's voice. She perched on a stool, fingers wrapped around the cup. "You have no idea." Lucia's eyes narrowed, reading her expression. "Rough morning?" Sofia hesitated, searching for the right words. "It's just, Renato barely talks to me anymore. I try to start a conversation, but it's like he's somewhere else. Even breakfast feels like we're in two different worlds." Lucia leaned in on her elbows, lowering her voice. "That bad?" Sofia nodded, her shoulders slumping. "I keep thinking I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm boring. Or maybe he's just done with us." Lucia shook her head, her tone gentle but firm. Sofia, you've always been there for him. Maybe he's just stressed. Some people go quiet when they're overwhelmed. It doesn't mean they don't care. Sofia's fingers tightened on the cup. But he never used to be like this. We'd talk for hours. Now, I can't get more than a few words out of him. A customer called out for an espresso, and Lucia gave Sofia's hand a reassuring squeeze. Give him time, and don't forget to take care of yourself too, okay? Come by this weekend. We'll watch terrible movies and eat brigadeiro until we're sick. Sofia mustered a laugh, the knot in her chest loosening just a little. She glanced out the window, watching the swirl of umbrellas as a sudden drizzle swept the street. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's just a phase. But as she sipped her latte, her thoughts drifted back to the apartment, the silence, the distance, the ache of being invisible in her own home. The afternoon passed in a blur of chores. Laundry folded and stacked with military precision, bathroom scrubbed until the tiles shone, a quick trip to the grocery store for tofu and fresh greens. Sofia lingered at the window, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk settled. The rain had stopped, leaving the streets glossy and reflective, the neon signs mirrored on slick pavement. She set the table for dinner, arranging the chopsticks parallel, lighting a small candle for atmosphere. She prepared a simple meal: miso soup, grilled salmon, rice with furikake, hoping the familiar flavors might bridge the gap between them. When Renato entered, his gaze flickered with surprise at the effort. "Looks great," he said, voice soft. Sofia smiled, searching his face for a spark of gratitude, or even curiosity. "Thought we could eat together tonight. It's been a while." He nodded, sliding into his chair, but his eyes drifted to his phone, then to the muted television in the corner. The candle flickered between them, casting shadows on the walls. They ate in silence, the clink of bowls and chopsticks the only conversation. Sofia found herself studying Renato's profile, the way his jaw clenched, the tired crease between his brows. She wanted to ask about his day, his thoughts, anything. But the words caught in her throat. Instead, she watched the steam curl from her soup, the flame quiver in the draft. After dinner, Renato retreated to his laptop, headphones in place. Sofia cleared the table alone, her movements methodical, her mind racing. She wiped the counters, her reflection wavering in the glossy surface, and wondered how two people could share the same space yet feel so far apart. Later, as the city's noise faded to a distant hum, Sofia sat at the dining table. The remains of dinner cleared away, the candle burned low. She could see Renato in the next room, hunched over his computer, his face illuminated by the blue-white glow of the screen. The apartment felt colder somehow, as if the silence itself had seeped into the walls. She watched him for a long moment, her thoughts swirling, memories of laughter, of whispered dreams, of hands intertwined. Now, all she had were questions. Her own reflection stared back at her from the darkened window, eyes shining with unshed tears. She clutched her mug, searching for answers in the silence. How long can love survive in silence? The question lingered, unanswered, as the city outside pulsed with unseen life, and Sofia sat, suspended in the hush of her own home, waiting for a sound that never came. Sofia awoke before dawn the next morning. The city still hushed in the bluish half-light that seeped through the curtains. She lay on her side, watching the gentle rise and fall of Renato's back, the outline of his body just discernible beneath the comforter. The urge to reach out and touch his shoulder, just to feel him stir, to know he was still there, was overwhelming. But she hesitated, her hand hovering midair before she let it drop, silent as the space between them. By the time Renato emerged from the shower, Sofia was already in the kitchen, determined to try something new. She had set out a small breakfast tray. Tamagoyaki, a bowl of fresh fruit, and a tiny origami crane perched on his napkin. It was a gesture that had once delighted him in the early days of their marriage, a playful nod to their Japanese roots. Renato paused at the sight, offering a faint smile as he reached for his coffee. "Looks nice," he murmured. Sofia watched him, searching for something, anything, in his face, but his gaze had already drifted to his phone, where notifications blinked insistently. She waited, hoping for a comment about the crane or the breakfast, but he scrolled through his emails in silence. "Maybe we could go for a walk in the park this evening," Sofia ventured, her voice soft, careful not to break the fragile morning calm. Renato nodded without looking up. "If I'm not working late," he said, almost apologetically. The words stung more than she expected. She sat across from him, clutching her mug, feeling the air in the apartment thicken with everything unsaid. The city outside was waking up. Car horns, snippets of distant conversation, the clatter of a delivery scooter. But inside, the hush pressed in around her. After Renato left for work, Sofia lingered at the table, tracing the rim of her cup. She opened her notebook, scribbling a quick note. "Have a good day. Thinking of you," and slipped it into Renato's laptop bag before he returned for his forgotten charger. He smiled, distracted, and offered a quick thanks before disappearing again with the door clicking shut behind him. Later that morning, Sofia met Lucia at the cafe. The place was already bustling, the hiss of the espresso machine, the sweet scent of pastries, and the steady hum of conversation providing a lively backdrop. Lucia greeted her with a bright smile and a quick hug before darting behind the counter. "You look tired," Lucia observed, pouring a cup of green tea and sliding it across the counter. "Still not sleeping well?" Sofia shrugged, forcing a smile. "It's not that. I keep trying to reach him, you know? Notes, breakfast, suggesting things to do together. He's polite about it, but it's like he's somewhere else entirely." Lucia frowned sympathetically, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "He's lucky to have someone who tries so much. But Sofia, you can't pour from an empty cup. Maybe it's time to do something just for you?" Sofia considered this, stirring her tea absently. "I know. It's just, what if I stop trying and we drift even further apart?" Lucia reached across the counter, squeezing Sofia's hand. "You're not alone, amiga. But you have to remember who you are, too." Back home, Sofia moved through the rooms as if trying to fill their emptiness with small acts of care. She dusted the framed wedding photo on the bookshelf, straightened the cushions on the futon, and opened the balcony window to let in the scent of rain on concrete. The city below was alive with color and noise, vendors shouting, children weaving between market stalls. But inside, the quiet was a constant companion. That afternoon, she decided to try again. She texted Renato. "Would you like to try that new ramen place tonight?" "My treat." He replied an hour later. "Maybe next week. Big deadline today." "Sorry." Sofia swallowed her disappointment, forcing herself to reply with a thumbs-up emoji. She wandered into the bedroom, sitting on the edge of the neatly made bed. The silence was so dense, she could almost hear her own heartbeat. It was dusk when Mrs. Fukumoto knocked gently at the door. The elderly neighbor stood in the hallway, a plate of fresh manju in her hands and a warm smile on her face. Her eyes, deep-set and gentle, betrayed a lifetime of watching and understanding. "Good evening, Sofia-san. I made too many," she said, holding out the plate. Sofia accepted the treat gratefully, ushering her neighbor inside. They sat together at the small table, the manju soft and sweet between them. Mrs. Fukumoto studied Sofia for a moment before speaking. "You seem troubled, dear. Is everything well at home?" Sofia hesitated, then shook her head. "I don't know what to do, Mrs. Fukumoto. Renato he's here, but he isn't. I try to talk, to connect, but it's like he's built a wall around himself." Mrs. Fukumoto nodded knowingly. "My husband was a quiet man, too. Sometimes silence is how people protect their hearts. But if you keep giving without speaking your truth, your heart will tire, Sofia-san. Honest words are the bridge between two souls, even if they tremble at first." Sofia blinked back tears, grateful for the kindness. "It's just hard to be the only one trying." Mrs. Fukumoto reached over, patting her hand. "You must care for your heart as much as you care for his. Don't let silence steal your light." That night, Sofia waited for Renato to come home. The hours stretched, punctuated only by the soft tick of the clock and the distant rumble of the city. She reheated dinner, setting it on the table with quiet hope. When Renato finally arrived, he looked exhausted, his eyes shadowed. "Sorry I'm late," he said, dropping his bag by the door. "It's all right," Sofia replied, trying to keep her tone light. "I saved you some dinner." He nodded, sitting across from her. They ate in near silence, the only sounds the clink of chopsticks and the hum of the refrigerator. Sofia watched him, searching for a way in, but the words tangled in her throat. After dinner, Renato retreated to the bedroom, laptop in hand. Sofia lingered at the table, the untouched manju a silent witness to her efforts. Days passed in a similar rhythm. Sofia offering, Renato withdrawing. She left little notes in his jacket pockets. Hope you have a good day. Suggested a weekend at the park. It might be nice to get some fresh air together. But Renato's responses never lingered longer than a moment. He was courteous, even grateful, but never truly present. His mind seemed elsewhere, his heart locked away behind careful politeness. One sunny afternoon, Sofia found herself wandering the busy streets of Libertad, lost in the swirl of market crowds. The scent of grilled yakitori and the clang of lanterns overhead were a sharp contrast to the muted colors of her apartment. She stopped at a stall selling calligraphy brushes and delicate paper, remembering how she and Renato had once spent hours painting together, laughing over their clumsy kanji. She bought a brush and a sheet of washi, an impulse decision. Maybe, she thought, she could surprise him, remind him of happier days. But when she returned home and presented the gift, Renato smiled tiredly. "Thank you, Sofia. That's nice," he said, but he didn't linger. Within minutes, he was back at his laptop, absorbed in code and emails. Sofia stood in the doorway, the memory of laughter echoing in the quiet. She pressed the brush to her palm, feeling the bristles tickle her skin, and wondered if she could ever bridge the growing gulf between them. The following weekend, Sofia suggested inviting Renato's family over for lunch. She knew he was close to his parents, and she hoped the warmth of family might ease the tension. Renato hesitated. "I don't think it's a good time. Work's been a lot lately. Maybe another weekend?" A small, frustrated sigh escaped Sofia before she could stop it. "It's always another weekend, Renato. When will it be a good time?" He looked away, jaw clenched. "I'm just tired, Sofia. I need space, okay?" The words hit her like a cold wind. She nodded, swallowing her hurt. Of course. "I understand." But the truth was, she didn't. Not really. That night, after the argument, Renato stayed late at the office. He sent a brief message. "Working late. Don't wait up." But Sofia barely registered the words through the haze of disappointment. She set the table for one, the silence in the apartment now oppressive, almost hostile. The days that followed brought little relief. Renato began coming home later and later, sometimes after midnight, sometimes not at all until dawn. Sofia tried texting, calling, even leaving his favorite snacks on the counter, but nothing seemed to reach him. She found herself waking in the middle of the night, heart pounding, straining to hear the sound of his key in the lock. When he did come home, he slipped quietly into bed, careful not to wake her, or perhaps hoping she wouldn't notice at all. Sofia's anxiety grew, turning every small interaction into an exercise in self-doubt. Was it something she said? Something she did? Was she not enough? On one particularly lonely afternoon, she called Lucia, her voice trembling. "I don't know how much longer I can do this, Lou. I feel like I'm disappearing." Lucia's voice was gentle but firm. "You're not disappearing, Sofia, but you can't lose yourself trying to save someone who won't let you in. Remember what makes you happy. Outside of him." Sofia nodded, though her heart ached. "I want him to be happy. I want us to be happy." "I know," Lucia said, "but happiness can't be a one-way street. Maybe it's time to focus on your own dreams, even if just for a little while." That evening, as the city outside glittered with neon lights and the distant sound of laughter from passing couples, Sofia sat alone on the balcony. She watched the world go by, a mother holding her child's hand, friends sharing ice cream on a street corner, an elderly man feeding pigeons in the fading light. She realized she was holding her breath, waiting for something to change, waiting for Renato to look at her the way he once did, to say her name with warmth, to reach across the table and bridge the silence. But the silence remained, vast and unmoving. Sofia pressed her hand to her heart, feeling the steady beat beneath her palm. She whispered to herself, "How long can I keep going like this?" If you've ever felt alone, even with someone right beside you, Sofia's story might feel familiar. What would you do in her place? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to follow Sofia's journey, don't forget to subscribe and join our community. Sometimes the hardest stories are the ones closest to home, and this one is just beginning. As Sofia closed the balcony door and turned off the lights, she resolved to try one more time to find a way through the silence. But for now, she faced the long night ahead, her heart heavy, but still hoping. The city outside pulsed with life, but inside, the quiet waited, patient and unresolved. Sofia awoke before sunrise, her body tense even in sleep. A faint drizzle tapped rhythmically at the kitchen window, blurring the neon city lights of Liberdade into watercolor streaks. The apartment was unusually cold for São Paulo's late autumn, the silence inside heavier than the humid air outside. She wrapped a faded cardigan around her shoulders and quietly moved through the familiar morning routine. Coffee, papaya, the comforting ritual of arranging breakfast. But even these gestures, once filled with subtle joy, had become mechanistic, dulled by weeks of unspoken words. When Renato emerged, he offered a soft, "Bom dia," eyes fixed on his phone. He sat, scrolling through emails, as Sofia placed the coffee in front of him. The two shared the same space, yet the distance felt insurmountable, a gulf filled with unsaid apologies and questions left hanging. Sofia tried a gentle smile, but it faded quickly as she watched him take a perfunctory bite of bread, already lost in another world. The day unfolded in slow motion. Sofia's attempts to start conversations met the same gentle, impenetrable wall. When she asked about his work, Renato answered with a clipped, "It's fine, just busy," before retreating into his screen. When she mentioned her plans for the afternoon, groceries, a walk to the park, he nodded politely but never looked up. By early afternoon, the rain had paused. Sofia slipped on sandals and wandered the bustling streets, seeking solace in the familiar chaos outside. Vendors called out from fruit stalls. The scent of grilled yakitori mingled with the crisp smell of wet pavement. She stopped at the cafe where Lucia worked, hoping for respite. Lucia greeted her with a concerned hug, reading the fatigue etched into her friend's face. "Sofia, you look like you haven't slept for days. Come, I'll make you some matcha." They settled by the window, watching umbrellas bob past. For a while, Sofia watched the steam curl from her cup, searching for words. "I don't know how much longer I can do this, Lucia. It's like living with a ghost." "He's there, but not really there." Lucia squeezed her hand. "You don't have to fix everything alone. Maybe try telling him exactly how you feel. Not just being patient, be honest." Sofia nodded, her throat tight. She had rehearsed conversations in her mind 100 times, but the weight of them always pressed her back into silence. "What if I do, and it doesn't change anything?" "Then at least you'll know you tried. You deserve answers, Sofia. You deserve to be heard." The words lingered with Sofia as she walked home beneath gray clouds. Her steps slowed in front of Mrs. Fukumoto's apartment. The elderly neighbor appeared at her door, tending to a small bonsai. "Sofia-chan," she called softly, her voice warm. "Everything all right?" Sofia hesitated, then nodded, but Mrs. Fukumoto's gentle eyes saw through the facade. Marriage is not just sharing space. Sometimes the hardest thing is to share our hearts, especially when we're afraid. Sofia managed a thin smile. "It's just hard to know what's in his heart when he won't say anything." Mrs. Fukumoto arranged a tiny branch with delicate care. "Sometimes silence is not emptiness, but a shield. But shields can be put down, if you ask gently enough." Sofia thanked her and continued inside. The air in the apartment was stale, the clock ticking with exaggerated slowness. Renato's shoes were neatly by the door, his bag resting where he always left it. She moved through the evening on autopilot, preparing dinner, setting the table, listening for the sound of the key turning in the lock. When he finally entered, his shoulders sagged, eyes rimmed with exhaustion. They ate in near silence, the clink of chopsticks and the distant hum of traffic filling the void. At one point, Sofia tried to ask about his day, but he only offered, "Just meetings." She watched him, searching for any flicker of warmth or frustration, anything that might crack his composure. But his face was a mask, polite and unreadable. After dinner, Sofia gathered the dishes with trembling hands. In the bedroom, she pulled out a sheet of stationery and began to write. The words spilled out in hesitant, looping script. "Renato, I miss you. I miss talking and laughing. I feel like I'm disappearing in this silence, and I don't know how to reach you anymore. If it's something I've done, please tell me. If you're hurting, let me help. I just want us back." She stared at the letter for a long time, her breath shallow. The paper trembled between her fingers. Would he even read it? Would it push him further away? The uncertainty gnawed at her. Finally, she folded the letter and slipped it into an envelope, but she couldn't bring herself to leave it on his desk. Instead, She tucked it inside her journal, a secret she wasn't brave enough to share. That night, the rain returned, tapping anxiously at the windows. Sofia lay awake, every muscle taut with worry. Memories of laughter, of hands entwined on warm summer nights flashed through her mind. She longed for even a single moment of genuine connection. The next morning, as Renato prepared to leave for work, Sofia hesitated by the door. "Renato, can we talk tonight? Really talk?" He paused, his hand on the doorframe. "Sure," he said, but his tone was neutral, his gaze already drifting away. The hours crawled. Sofia couldn't focus on chores, her mind replaying every conversation, every slight, every missed opportunity. By evening, she felt raw, exposed, a knot of longing and fear. She reheated dinner but barely touched her food. Renato arrived late, apologizing softly as he set down his bag. The apartment felt impossibly small. Sofia waited until the plates were cleared, until the city outside had quieted, before finally gathering her courage. She found Renato in the living room, staring blankly at his laptop. He looked up as she entered, his eyes weary. She sat down across from him, her hands clenched in her lap. "Renato, I need to say something. Please, please just listen. Don't answer right away. Just listen." He nodded, closing the laptop. Sofia took a shaky breath, her voice barely above a whisper. "I feel like I'm losing you. Every day it's like you're further away. I try to talk, but you're not really here. You're so quiet. Sometimes I wonder if you even notice me anymore. I feel invisible. I keep thinking maybe it's something I've done, or that you don't love me anymore. And I can't keep pretending it's okay." Tears welled up in her eyes, and this time she didn't blink them away. "I'm lonely, Renato. I'm really, really lonely. I know you work hard. I know you're tired. But I need you. I need us. If there's something wrong, please tell me. If you need help, let me help. But I can't do this alone." The silence that followed was heavier than any before. Renato's face tightened, his jaw working as if he were chewing over impossible words. For a moment, Sofia thought he might simply shut down again, retreat behind his wall of politeness. But then, slowly, he set the laptop aside and looked at her. Really looked, as if seeing her for the first time in months. He took a deep breath, his hands trembling. "Sofia, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't know how to say things sometimes. Work has been a lot. They're talking about layoffs, and I keep thinking, what if I lose my job? What if I let you down? I come home and I'm so tired, and I don't want to bring my stress here. I know I shut down. It's not because I don't love you. I didn't want you to worry." His voice cracked, the words spilling out in raw, halting bursts. "I was afraid to look weak. You always seem so strong, Sofia. I thought if I kept it inside, I could protect you. But all I've done is make you feel alone." Sofia's breath caught, her heart pounding. The confession unraveled the knots of anger and doubt inside her. For the first time, she saw not just Renato's distance, but the vulnerability behind it, the fear and shame he had tried so hard to hide. Tears slid down Sofia's cheeks, but they felt different now, lighter, almost cleansing. She reached for Renato's hand, her fingers cold but determined. "You don't have to protect me by shutting me out. I want to help. I want to be part of your life, even the hard parts. I love you, even when things are messy." Renato squeezed her hand, his eyes brimming. "I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. I promise, I'll try to talk more. I don't want us to drift apart." They sat together in the quiet, the city's distant noise a gentle backdrop. For the first time in months, the silence felt safe, filled with possibility instead of pain. Later that night, as they lay side by side, Sofia reached for the letter in her journal. She handed it to Renato, her heart fluttering. He opened it, his hands shaking. As he read, his tears fell silently onto the paper. When he finished, he pulled Sofia close, his embrace wordless but full. And in that fragile, honest moment, the silence between them finally broke. Not with a storm, but with the soft, steady rhythm of two hearts learning to speak again. Sofia awoke the next morning to the gentle hum of São Paulo filtering through their apartment. bicycle bells, the rumble of buses, snippets of laughter from the bakery downstairs. She lay quietly, letting the sounds settle her nerves. The previous night's conversation with Renato replayed in her mind. The hesitant words, the rawness in his voice as he'd finally let her see beneath his silence. She remembered her own trembling hands, the tears she'd tried so hard to keep back, and the strange sense of relief that had followed once everything was out in the open. She eased out of bed, careful not to wake Renato, and padded into the kitchen. Sunlight spilled across the counter, illuminating the little tokens of their shared life. A chipped mug from their honeymoon in Okinawa, the faded magnet of Sugarloaf Mountain, a bowl of persimmons Mrs. Fukumoto had left on their doorstep. For the first time in weeks, Sofia didn't feel entirely alone in her own home. She clutched the letter she'd written the night before, the one she'd been too afraid to give to Renato. Now, the words inside felt less urgent, less like a final plea, and more like a reminder to herself. You are worthy of love, even when it's quiet. You are seen, even when it feels like you're invisible. Renato's footsteps approached, light and hesitant. He paused at the threshold, rubbing the back of his neck. There was a vulnerability in his posture that Sofia hadn't noticed before. He looked at her, not through her, and offered a tentative smile. "Bom dia," he said softly. "Bom dia," she replied, matching his tone. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence, once suffocating, felt different now, softer, less threatening. Renato took a breath and cleared his throat. "Sofia, about last night?" He trailed off, searching for the right words. "I'm sorry for everything. I know I've been distant. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you." She looked up, meeting his eyes. "I just wanted to understand. I needed to know it wasn't me. It was never you." Renato's voice was steadier this time. "I've been under a lot of pressure at work, and I thought keeping it to myself would protect you. I didn't want to bring my stress home, and I was afraid if I talked about it, I'd let you down. But I see now that shutting you out, it made things worse." Sofia nodded, letting the words settle. "I don't need you to be perfect, Renato. I need you to let me in, even when things are messy." He reached for her hand across the counter, squeezing it gently. "I'll try. It won't be easy for me, but I want to learn. For us." A quiet hope blossomed inside Sofia. Not the naive hope that everything would magically fix itself overnight, but the steadier, more grounded hope that came from being truly seen. They moved through their morning together, each small gesture carrying new meaning. Renato lingered over breakfast, asking about Sofia's plans for the day. Instead of retreating into his work, he offered to walk with her to the grocery store, something he hadn't done in months. As they strolled through the bustling streets of Liberdad, Sofia felt the weight on her chest begin to lift. The city's rhythm pulsed around them. The clatter of market stalls, the scent of grilled yakitori, the laughter of children darting between shops. For the first time in a long while, Sofia felt connected, not just to Renato, but to herself and the world outside their apartment. At the grocery store, Mrs. Fukumoto greeted them with her usual warmth. "Ah, Sofia-chan, Renato-san." "Together today?" She beamed, her eyes twinkling. Renato smiled, a touch awkward but sincere. "Yes, Mrs. Fukumoto. We're working on things." Mrs. Fukumoto nodded approvingly. "Good. Marriage is like miso soup, best when you stir it every day." Sofia laughed, her tension easing further. As they walked back home, bags filled with fresh vegetables and sweet bread, she realized that change didn't have to be dramatic. It could be as simple as a conversation, a shared walk, a willingness to try again. Later that afternoon, Sofia met Lucia at the cafe for their usual catch-up. The cafe buzzed with life. Students chatting over espresso, couples sharing pastries, sunlight streaming through the windows in golden stripes. Lucia leaned across the table, her eyes searching Sofia's face. "You look lighter. Did something happen?" Sofia smiled, the first genuine smile she'd felt in a long time. "We talked. Really talked. It was hard, but I think we finally understand each other better." Lucia grinned. "See? I knew you could do it. Sometimes you just need to be brave enough to say what's on your heart." Sofia sipped her coffee, savoring the warmth. "It's not perfect, but it's real, and I think that's enough." The days that followed were not without their challenges. Renato still struggled to open up. and there were times when old habits resurfaced. But now, when silence settled between them, it was less a wall and more a space where words could eventually land. Sofia, too, began reclaiming parts of herself she'd set aside, taking up painting again, meeting friends, and finding fulfillment beyond the boundaries of her marriage. One evening, as rain tapped softly against the window, Renato found Sofia at her easel, brush in hand, lost in color and form. He sat beside her, watching her work. "I never asked," he said quietly, "but I'd like to see what you paint." Sofia hesitated, then turned the canvas toward him. It was an abstract piece, vivid blues and gentle golds swirling together. Renato studied it, then looked at her. "It's beautiful. You're really talented, Sofia." She blushed, surprised by the sincerity in his voice. "Thank you. I forgot how much I loved it." Renato took her hand. "I want to know you better, Sofia. Not just the wife who takes care of everything, but the woman who paints, who laughs with her friends, who dreams." Tears pricked Sofia's eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude. For the first time, she truly believed that they could build something new, something honest, imperfect, and resilient. The journey wasn't over, but it had shifted. Sofia had learned that love wasn't about constant harmony or unbroken happiness. It was about showing up, even when it was hard, and choosing each other day after day. As she closed her eyes that night, Sofia whispered a quiet promise to herself, to never lose her voice again, to ask for what she needed, and to honor the woman she was becoming, stronger, braver, and more open than she'd ever thought possible. And for those of you watching, maybe you felt this way too. Maybe you've sat across a silent table, wondering if you're invisible, if your feelings matter. Maybe you've doubted your worth, or wondered if love can survive when words run dry. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever struggled to break the silence with someone you love? What helped you find your voice? Your stories matter here. And if you found a bit of hope or inspiration tonight, please give this video a like. It helps us reach others who might need to hear they're not alone. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new story. Every week, we bring you real moments from real lives, because sometimes the most powerful confessions are the quietest ones. Thank you for being part of our community. Until next time, take care of your heart, and remember, love is worth the conversation.